Now I know what you're thinking. Hey fuckface, why are you reviewing new movies now? That's such an oversaturated niche on YouTube. Fuck off and talk about Spider-Man, otherwise you'll get 2 views and want to die. You're probably right, but I'm not going to do the typical sit down in front of my movie collectibles and talk about the film I just saw type review. I'm going to try to record my genuine reactions walking in and out of the theater for every movie I see and review. Then I'm going to think about it and write the script for the review. So without further ado, here were my thoughts going into Ant-Man and the Wasp. My thoughts on the first Ant-Man before I go into the second one, where it was just fine. It was forgettable. I thought Paul Rudd was good. I love Michael Douglas, and the Thomas fight was cool, and the heart of the movie with his daughter, that was good too. I'm about to walk in to buy my ticket for Ant-Man and the Wasp. We're about to see Ant-Man and the Wasp.
2 hours later.
I just walked out of Ant-Man and the Wasp. We're gonna do a 3-word review. Initial thoughts before I go home and write this review, okay?
Formulaic but cool.
Brilliant but lazy.
Brilliant but lazy.
Before we begin, I may spoil some things, so if you give a shit about the story beats of Marvel Studios' Ant-Man and the Wasp, then maybe watch this later. Ant-Man and the Wasp is a horribly written movie with some pretty pedestrian direction with some solid performances and some of the best Marvel comedy. If you were to ask me what film I would rather watch, Ant-Man or Ant-Man and the Wasp, I would probably pick the latter. I'm not going to do the typical plot summary that most reviewers do, because chances are if you're watching this video, you've either seen the film or you already know the basic plot, or you just don't give a shit. The plot of this film is really bad. I can't really talk about it for very long because there isn't really much to talk about. Things just seem to happen to characters, and the conflict involving ghosts could be solved with a single conversation. There isn't really a villain in this movie. I guess you could say that the one gangster dude or the comedic FBI agent are the villains, but they have pretty much nothing to their characters. I don't expect a good villain in an Ant-Man movie, and I'm aware that the villain takes a back seat to the hero so you can focus on character growth for said heroes, but there's almost no character growth from anyone in this movie. Scott Lang is the same as he was in the beginning of the movie. Wasp is the same. Hank Pym is the same. No one goes through any type of change. At least in the first film, characters change from being criminals no one accepts to heroes that no one accepts. There are pretty much no consequences, no stakes, no threat, and if we're being honest, no purpose. So there's this thing I notice in movies, especially superhero action movies. There's definitely a word for it, but I'm too lazy to look it up just to sound smart. But anyways, there's this thing where in order to make a female character like the Wasp seem ultra slick and competent, they dumb down the main protagonist. This is purely a case of male writers attempting to write female characters and play them up. She and Scott can both be competent and cool. They shouldn't feel the need to sacrifice Scott Lang's character in order to play up the Wasp's. That's honestly kind of sexist in itself, but we don't need to get political here. In the first film, Scott is competent, slick, and smart. He was able to modify the regulator on his suit, steal from a big corporation, and break into a super secure safe using a bunch of household appliances. But in this movie, he's a complete goofball, and they definitely dumbed down his character for comedic effect and to make the Wasp, like I said earlier, seem slicker, more confident, and just better at the job. Speaking of the Wasp, Evangeline Lilly is great. I wasn't a big fan of her character in the first film, but here she really shines. And her chemistry with Paul Rudd and Douglas adds a lot to the bare bones script. The performances save this movie. Paul Rudd is always likable no matter how pedestrian the script is, no matter how bland the direction is, Paul Rudd just makes things better. Same goes for Michael Douglas, whose sole purpose in this film is to deliver expository bullshit about the quantum realm.
Quantum realm is a reality where all concepts of time become irrelevant. Concepts of time.
But the benefit of having Douglas do that is that anything he says sounds more important and smarter than it really is.
He, in the first movie, is a walking exposition machine. If you're gonna do it, to hear it come out of Michael Douglas's mouth is the way to do it.
It's the best way.
You know one performance that is terrible? Like, really bad? Michelle Pfeiffer? Poofer? Whatever. She's really bad, and looks like she has absolutely no idea what is going on. Probably because she actually had absolutely no idea what the fuck was going on.
My character many years ago got stuck in the quantum realm.
Quantum realm.
Jesus Christ, I had high hopes for her because, well, she was goddamn incredible in the last superhero movie she was in.
Who the hell you think you are?
I don't know anymore, Bruce.
But in this case, it was clearly one of those situations where Marvel was like, hey, you want to make some money? And the actor or actress was like, sure, what do I have to do? and the director was like, stand here and say this mumbo jumbo about some quantum shit. Let's talk about direction. It's always hard to talk about direction because a guy like me who wants to make these kind of movies but is making YouTube videos talking about these kind of movies knows absolutely nothing about the filmmaker and what goes on behind the scenes. Peyton Reed could be a great director. He could love these characters in this film to death. But I don't and can't know that, so I have to judge the direction of the film based on the film itself. The direction is bland, uninspired, and feels like a mediocre episode of CW's The Flash. The only thing with any kind of vision behind it is the shrinking and growing stuff. That's cool, that's inspired, but that's it. Sucks that all those moments were spoiled in the trailer though. There's not a single remarkable thing about the way this movie is shot. It seems like it was shot for coverage with no artistic vision in mind. Every shot is medium shot, reverse medium shot, and so on. Maybe I'm spoiled by the fact that Marvel movies recently have been pretty well shot, with Guardians 2 being a beautiful standout, but I promise you that by the time I am done writing this, I will have forgotten every frame of this movie. I also have a suspicion that Ant-Man and the Wasp was edited down a lot. It ends very abruptly and the pacing is all over the place. Sometimes the movie is very fast-paced, especially in the first act where the inciting incident happens right away and then it really slows down in the second act. Then the third act and climax lasts about 6 seconds. And the ending is just weird, like they get Janet back and then everything is happily ever after, then there's some joke about a drive-in and then it just ends. I know this review seems really negative, but the film is a good time. There are a few standout comedic bits like Scott being super tiny in the school or those cool Edgar Wright style Michael Pena talking montages from the first film. The action is on par, if not better, than the first movie, but Ant-Man and the Wasp contains this gag taken straight from Iron Man 3 where the hero's new suit keeps fucking up and instead of worrying about it or, you know, wearing another suit, they just leave it be to create conflict in later action scenes and for moments of bathos, which in my opinion is what we call lazy writing. The post-credit scene is predictable but cool. I think I know where they're going with it, and I hope it leads to Paul Rudd having some emotional scenes in Avengers 4, but knowing the direction they tend to go with this character, I doubt it. So overall, I did enjoy myself, but you have to look at a film as a film. That means a cinematic level, that means a writing level, that means direction, that means acting, that means the whole 9 yards. I don't really do letter gradings or scores out of 10, but if I had to give Ant-Man and the Wasp a letter grade, it would be a solid Corey Stroll. And if I had to do a number grade, it would be 5.26123 fire ants in my pants out of 10 wasp and a word that rhymes with wasps. Before I end this video, did you like this? Should I just never make one of these again? Seriously, leave me your honest thoughts. What would you like to see reviewed? Should I go more in detail or make it quicker? Am I a hack? If you did enjoy this, you can donate to my charity for pretentious children by clicking that nice little Patreon link. It's as little as $1 a month, and you'll be helping me not feel so alone anymore. Plus, if we reach the absurd goal of $1,000 a month, which is $1 from 1,000 of you, I will put me getting tased in one of my videos. I'm dead fucking serious. That way, if you disagree with me about Man of Steel or Zack True Cannon Snyder or any of my stupid opinions, you can get joy from watching me scream in pain. If you can't afford to help us out with your hard-earned cash, which is completely understandable, why not share this video around? At least help me make ad revenue off it, unless you have ad blocker on, in which case, fuck you. You want cinematic integrity?
I agree with that because I think Superman is broken and I think it needs to be fixed.